Morning, afternoon, evening, or late night. Whenever you're watching, welcome. Let me know in the comments, what town are you watching from? And listen, if this story popped up for you, it's because it deserves to be heard. So, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more like it. The sun was already saying its goodbyes when I dropped the hoe and wiped the sweat from my forehead with the back of my hand. The red dirt of Oklahoma clung to my skin like a second nature, and the smell of dry grass mixed with the warm wind that came from the west. Another day ending just like the 1,000 that came before. It had been 3 years since Claire passed. 3 years since the house got too big, the silence too heavy, and I learned that talking to yourself isn't crazy, it's a necessity. Cancer took her away in a hot December, when the cicadas were singing loudly, and I still believed December could bring miracles. It didn't. All that was left was the farm, 120 acres of corn and soybeans, a few head of cattle, and a loneliness that filled every corner of the house like an unwanted guest who never leaves. I was also left with this habit of observing everything. The birds that nest in the eaves, the clouds that form and dissipate without hurry, the plants that grow slowly but surely. Claire always said I had a farmer's eye. "Joe, you see things others don't," she'd say, while making breakfast, still in her nightgown, her hair messed up the way I loved most. "That's why your plants grow more beautiful." I'd laugh, thought it was just a woman in love talking. Now I know she was right. You learn to see when you're alone for too long. You see the little things, the details that go unnoticed when life is full of people and noise. You also see the things that are wrong, the things that need care, the things that cry for help without making a sound. I walked to the porch of the house, a simple brick building that my dad built 40 years ago. The roof timbers creaked as the heat of the day dissipated, and the sound of crickets began timidly, like an orchestra tuning their instruments before the big night concert. I grabbed the glass of ice water that I always left on the coffee table, a habit that Claire taught me and that I kept as a way to keep her alive in my routine. The water tasted like iron from the well, but it was the purest I'd ever tasted. Like everything that comes from the earth, it tastes like truth. I sat in the rocking chair where I used to read the newspaper on Sundays, when I still bought the paper, when I still cared about what was happening in the world out there. Now the world to me was the size of the property, and that was fine. The sky was turning shades of orange and purple, and I could see the lights of Tulsa starting to flicker in the distance. The city was 20 miles away, but it seemed like another planet. Every now and then, I'd go there to buy supplies, chat with the guys at the co-op, pay the bills. But I always came back relieved. The noise of people tired me now. The empty conversations, the complaints, the gossip. I preferred the honest silence of the countryside. But that afternoon, the silence felt different, heavier, like it was pregnant with something I couldn't quite identify yet. I got up and went to the corral to take one last look at the cattle. The cows were chewing slowly with that infinite patience of animals who know they don't need to run anywhere. Whitey, the oldest bull on the property, raised his head when he saw me coming. Always did that, like he was greeting me. "Hey, Whitey, everything okay here?" He shook his head, went back to grazing. Simple conversations, those I could still have. I was walking back when I heard the noise, engine failing, far away, almost imperceptible. But I heard it. When you live in silence, any different sound gets your attention. I stopped, paid attention. The noise was coming from the old county road, the one that runs along the edge of the property and that almost nobody uses anymore since they built the new highway. It was a dirt road, full of holes, that led to the small farms and abandoned houses that were left over from the days when the area had more people. The engine died. Total silence for a few seconds. Then, voices. I couldn't understand what they were saying, but there was something wrong with the tone. A louder voice, insistent, another one quieter, resistant. My first impulse was to stay where I was. It wasn't my problem. Everyone has to deal with their own difficulties. I already had mine, but then I remembered Claire. Joe, when you see someone needing help and pretend you didn't see, you kill a piece of your soul, she told me once, after we passed a broken-down car on the road and I didn't stop. And there's no doctor to cure a soul. I sighed deeply, grabbed the hat hanging on the nail on the porch, and walked to the stable. Pal, a gentle 15-year-old sorrel horse, pricked up his ears when he saw me coming with the rope. Let's go take a look, Pal, just to make sure it's nothing serious. The horse let himself be saddled without resistance. He knew my routine, knew when it was a ride and when it was work. That time, from my slower, more thoughtful movements, he realized it was something else. I mounted and followed the trail that led to the old county road. The sun had completely disappeared, leaving only a golden trail on the horizon. The first stars were beginning to appear, and the new moon was just a pale suggestion in the dark sky. The sound of Pal's hooves on the dry earth echoed in the silence of the night, a rhythmic, almost hypnotic sound that always calmed me down. Horses have that gift. They force you to stay in their rhythm. They force you to slow down, to think slowly. As I got closer to the road, the voices became clearer. A low but tense argument. The kind of conversation that happens when someone is trying to convince someone of something they don't want to do. When I got to the fence that divided my land from the road, I saw the car. An old white Chevy, kind of dented, with the hood open, letting out steam. And there beside it, two figures in the shadows. A man in his 40s, rumpled dress shirt, hair stuck to his forehead with sweat, and a young woman, no more than 25, long dark hair, simple dress, bare feet on the red dirt. He was speaking softly, but you could feel the urgency in his voice. He was holding her arm, lightly, not forcefully, but insistently. She was shaking her head, taking a step back, looking at the horizon as if searching for an escape route that didn't exist. I stood there watching, trying to understand. It didn't look like a husband and wife fight, not a kidnapping either. It looked like abandonment. It looked like someone trying to force another person to go back to a place they didn't want to leave. That's when she saw me. Our eyes met in the growing darkness. She didn't scream, didn't wave, didn't ask for help, just looked at me. But in that look there was a silent question, a request that didn't need words. And at that moment, I understood what Claire meant about seeing the things that others don't see. That girl wasn't asking to be saved. She was asking to be respected, to have her choice respected, not to be forced to go back to a life she had decided to leave behind. I dismounted the horse calmly and approached the fence. Some folks show up in your life like rain in a drought, when you least expect it, when you need it most. Evening, I said, approaching the fence without haste, my hands visible, my tone of voice calm as when approaching a scared animal. The man turned towards me, startled. The girl kept looking at me, but now there was something different in her eyes, a little spark. Hope, maybe. Evening, sir, the man replied, trying to smile, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. We're having a little trouble here with the car. We're taking care of it. I looked at the steam coming out of the hood, then at the girl. She had a small backpack on her back and was holding a plastic bag with some clothes. Her bare feet were dirty with red dirt, and there were small cuts on her heels. She'd walked a long way. Can I help? I asked, directing the question to both of them, but looking especially at her. No need, the man replied too quickly. It's just overheating. It'll cool down soon. The girl opened her mouth as if to speak, but hesitated. The man noticed and put his hand on her shoulder, a gesture that might seem affectionate to those watching from afar, but that I recognized as control. Marina, get in the car. We'll wait for it to cool down inside. Marina. That was her name. And for the first time she spoke in a low but firm voice. I don't want to get in the car. The silence that followed was heavy as the air before a storm. The man looked at me, then at her, trying to maintain his composure. Marina, let's not discuss this here in front of the gentleman. There's no discussion, she said, taking a step back. I already told you, I'm not going back. That's when I understood. She had run away, had taken her few belongings and left. And he had come after her, trying to convince her to return. But something told me it wasn't just a relationship issue. There was more to it than that. Sir, she addressed me for the first time, can you help me get to Tulsa? I'll pay for the gas. The man took a step forward. She's not well, she's confused. I'm her brother-in-law. I came to pick her up because the family is worried. Marina shook her head forcefully. He's lying. I don't have a family, and he's not my brother-in-law. The tension in the air was palpable. I could feel her desperation, but also his insistence. I didn't know who was telling the truth, but I knew how to recognize fear when I saw it. Marina, I said her name slowly, testing how it sounded. Are you hungry? The question caught them both by surprise. She blinked several times, as if she hadn't expected that. Yes, she admitted quietly. Then come with me. I'll make some coffee and something for you to eat. Then we'll talk about how to get to Tulsa. The man took a step forward, but stopped when I turned completely to him. And you, I said, looking directly into his eyes, are going to have to wait for the car to cool down anyway. But you can leave if you want. The road is free. I can't leave her here. The family will have to wait for her to decide if she wants to go back or not, I interrupted, keeping my tone calm but firm. Here, nobody forces anyone to do anything. Marina looked at me as if I had performed a miracle. In her tired features, I saw enormous relief, as if she had been holding her breath for hours and could finally let it out. Can I really go with you? She asked, her voice trembling a little. You can. My house is over there. I pointed towards the farm, where a yellow light shone on the porch. There's a guest room, hot food, and you can take a shower and rest. She looked at the man, then at me, then at her own hands. I saw that she was making a decision. One of those decisions that change the course of life. I'll go with you, she said finally. The man took a step forward, but I raised my hand. Son, you better go. If she doesn't want to go with you, there's nothing more to do here. You don't understand. She's sick, needs medication. The family, if she's sick, I'll take her to the doctor tomorrow. If she needs medication, I'll go to the drugstore. And if she has family, she'll contact them herself when she wants to. Marina was already walking towards me. I went under the fence and offered my hand to help her pass too. She hesitated for a second, then accepted. Her hand was cold and trembling a little. On the other side of the fence, she looked back one last time. The man was still standing by the car, clearly frustrated, but not knowing what to do. My name is Joe, I said as we walked to where Pal was waiting patiently. Joe Dorres, this is my horse, Pal. Marina, she said, gently touching the horse's muzzle. Marina Hope. Hope, what a pretty name for a girl lost on the road. You know how to ride a horse? Never tried. It's easy, just let him take you. I helped her onto the horse, being careful not to touch where I shouldn't. She clung to my shirt when Pal started walking, but soon relaxed. He's gentle, I explained. 15 years old, he's seen it all. Nothing scares him anymore. As we walked along the trail, I could feel her looking back a few times. The sound of the car engine trying to start reached us, failing several times before finally working. The headlights swept the road, then disappeared in the opposite direction. He's gone, she said, and there was relief in her voice. He is, and if he comes back, he'll find the same answer. We got to the house in a few minutes. I turned on the lights on the porch and in the yard, and the property came to life in the darkness. The chickens stirred in the roost, alerted by the movement. The neighbor's dog barked once in the distance, then fell silent. It's pretty here, Marina said, getting off the horse with my help. It's simple, but it's home. I took Pal back to the stable while she stayed on the porch looking around. When I came back, I found her sitting on the steps, taking small stones out of her feet. Come on, I said, let's take care of that. Inside the house, I turned on the lights and showed her the bathroom. There's a clean towel in the closet, shampoo, soap, whatever you need. I'll heat up some water on the stove for you to wash your feet. While she cleaned up, I prepared a simple soup with the vegetables I had in the fridge. Pumpkin, carrot, potato, a little shredded jerky. The smell filled the kitchen and reminded me of the nights when Claire came back tired from the garden and I made dinner. Marina appeared in the kitchen 20 minutes later, her wet hair tied in a bun, wearing the same clothes but visibly cleaner. The cuts on her feet had been washed and didn't seem serious. "Sit down," I said, pointing to the kitchen table. I served the soup in a deep bowl with a thick slice of homemade bread that I had made the day before. She ate slowly, but with obvious hunger. I stayed at the sink, washing the dishes I had used at lunch, giving her space and time. "How long has it been since you ate?" I asked after a while. 2 days. Just water and some crackers I bought at the gas station." "You've been running for 2 days?" She stopped eating and looked at me. In her eyes, I saw that she was calculating how much of the truth she could tell. 3, she said finally. "I left on Tuesday morning." "And him?" "He showed up yesterday. I don't know how he found me." "Who is he?" Marina sighed deeply, played with the spoon in the soup. "It's complicated. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. But if he comes back tomorrow, I need to know what I'm up against." She looked me in the eye and I saw that she was making another decision, deciding if she could trust me. My real name is Marina Santos. Marina Hope was the name I was going to use when I got to Tulsa. To start a new life. I stopped washing the dishes and turned to her. "And who is the man on the road? The husband I never chose." The soup got cold in the bowl as she told her story. "Sometimes you run not from what hurts, but from what kills you slowly." Marina pushed the bowl aside and stared at her own hands. Small hands, with calluses on the tips of her fingers and a bitten thumbnail. Hands of someone who works, who takes care of herself. "My dad died when I was 15, she began, her voice low as if telling a secret. "Left a big debt with some businessmen from Oklahoma City. My mom didn't know anything, thought the store was doing well." I stopped at the sink and leaned against the counter, keeping my distance so as not to intimidate her. I had learned from the animals that sometimes you have to stand still for the other to feel safe to talk. The men showed up at the house a week after the funeral. Said there would be trouble if we didn't pay. My mom almost went crazy. Then he showed up, Julian. The name came out of her mouth like a bad taste that needs to be spit out. Offered to pay the whole debt. Said he was a friend of my dad's, that he wanted to help, but the help had a price. She stopped, took a deep breath. Outside, the wind was shaking the trees, and the sound of dry leaves rubbing against each other reached the kitchen like a warning whisper. "Marriage," I said, more affirmation than question. "Marriage. I had just turned 16. He was 32. Said he would wait for me to turn 18 to make it official, but on paper, I was already his." I felt my stomach turn, not from disgust, but from anger. An old anger that I knew well. The same one I felt when I saw someone mistreating an animal, a child, anything defenseless. "Your mother agreed?" Marina laughed, but there was no humor in the laugh. My mother had to agree. Or we would lose the house, the store, everything. He made that very clear, and he also made it clear that if I didn't agree, there would be other ways to collect the debt. Threat. Yeah, but the kind that doesn't need to shout. Julian has always been like that, polite, smiling, gentle in front of others. But when it's just you and him... She stopped, rubbed her arms as if she were cold even with the heat of the night. "How long have you been married to him?" 7 years. Since I turned 18, but living in the same house since I was 16. 7 years. A lifetime trapped in a situation she didn't choose. I couldn't imagine. Even in my most lonely moments, after Claire died, I still had the freedom to choose. To get up or not get up, to plant or not to plant, to live or to wither. Marina never had a choice. "And why did you run away now?" She looked at me, and for the first time I saw tears in the corners of her eyes. Not tears of sadness, but of anger. Because he decided it was time to have a child. The sentence hung in the hot air of the kitchen. I understood without her needing to explain. I understood the despair, the escape, the fear when she saw the man on the road. Marina, I never wanted to. Never wanted to marry him, never wanted to be the pretty little woman who stays at home cooking and waiting for her husband to come home, but a child. She shook her head forcefully. I can't bring a child into the world to live this prison with me. I poured 2 cups of coffee and sat at the table in front of her. The coffee was strong, bitter, the way I liked it. I pushed a cup towards her. And what do you want to do? Go far away. Change my name, start over. I know how to sew, I know how to cook, I know how to clean houses. I can get a job anywhere. And he won't stop looking. Marina took the cup with both hands, like a child who doesn't want to spill. He won't. He doesn't give up on anything he thinks is his. That's why I need to go far away, to where he can't imagine I might be. Does his family have money to look for you far away? Yes. His father has a ranch, a gas station, 2 stores in town. Knows people everywhere. It was worse than I thought. It wasn't just a matter of running away from a bad husband. It was running away from a family with power, with connections, with resources to find a runaway girl anywhere in the state. Why didn't you go to the police? She laughed again, bitterly. In Oklahoma City, the police chief eats at Julian's family's table every Sunday. The mayor owes them favors. There's no way, Joe. The only way out is to disappear. I was silent, thinking. Outside, an owl hooted in the dark and the chickens stirred restlessly in the roost. Even the animals know when there's a predator nearby. Where is your mother in all this? She died 2 years ago. Cancer. Marina wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. In the end, she even apologized. Said she had done the only thing she could to protect me, but that she knew it wasn't enough. Claire had also died of cancer, had also apologized, but for different things. For not being able to stay, for leaving me alone, for not being able to give me the children we wanted so much. 2 women, 2 equal diseases, 2 different types of guilt. And you forgave her? I forgave her. She did what she thought was best at the time. You can't judge other people's choices when you weren't in their place. Wisdom from someone who suffered too early. Marina was only 23 years old, but she spoke like someone who had lived 3 lives. Do you have money to start over? I have a little. I saved it for years, hidden. About $2,000. It's not much, but it's enough to start. $2,000 for a whole life. To run away from a powerful family, to hide, to start from scratch. It was almost nothing, but I had seen people do more with less. And what do you want to be when you manage to start over? Her eyes sparkled for the first time since she had arrived. A teacher. I always wanted to teach. I studied pedagogy in secret, taking a distance learning course. Julian thought I was taking a cooking course. Did you manage to finish? I did. I even did an internship at a school in Oklahoma City, saying I was a cousin of a friend. I loved every minute. So you have a profession? I do. I just need a place where they can give a job to a teacher without references, without previous documents, without anything that proves who I am. I looked at her for a long time. Marina Santos, who wanted to become Marina Hope, a girl who had studied secretly for years in order to have a profession, a chance, a life of her own, who had saved $2,000 coin by coin to buy her own freedom, who had the courage to run away from a powerful family even knowing the risks, who had chosen the name Hope because that was what she was looking for. Why do you trust me? I asked. You don't know me at all. You could be a friend of your husband's family. You could turn me in. Marina looked me straight in the eyes. Because when you looked at me on the road, you didn't look at me as property. You looked at me as a person. And because you didn't ask questions before giving me food. Simple as that. So simple that it reminded me of the things Claire always said about kindness, that it didn't need to be a big deal, heroic, that sometimes it was just looking right, treating like people, giving food when someone is hungry. "You can stay here today," I said. "Tomorrow we'll see what to do. Joe, I can't involve you in this. If Julian finds out you helped me..." "Let me worry about Julian. You've worried too much about him in your life." Marina lowered her head, and I saw that her shoulders relaxed for the first time, as if she had carried a giant weight and could finally drop it on the floor. "Thank you," she said softly. It had been a long time since anyone was kind to me without wanting anything in return. I showed her the guest room, small but clean, with a single bed, an old wardrobe, and a window that overlooked the yard. The sheet smelled of softener and sun, the way Claire always left it. "There's an extra blanket in the closet if you get cold, and you can lock the door from the inside if you want to feel safer. Can I leave the window open? I like to sleep listening to the sounds of the night." "You can. It's safe here." I went back to the kitchen and washed the cups and the soup bowl. Through the window I could see the light of the guest room still on. Probably Marina was organizing her few belongings, trying to process everything that had happened. A girl of 23 who had never chosen anything in her own life, who had run away with a backpack and $2,000 to try to become another person, who wanted to be a teacher and call herself Hope, and who was now sleeping in the room that one day I thought would be for a child of mine and Claire's. Life had these ironies. You think you know the way, then it gives you a curve you've never seen on the map. I turned off the lights and went to my room, but it took me a long time to fall asleep. I kept thinking about Julian, imagining if he would come back, thinking about Marina, what she had gone through, what she could still go through, and thinking about Claire, who always said that people appeared in our life at the right time, even when we didn't know we needed them. Maybe Marina had appeared in my life, or maybe I had appeared in hers, or maybe we had appeared to each other. Outside, the wind continued to shake the trees, and the crickets sang their eternal song. But now, the silence of the house seemed different, less empty, as if after 3 years, there were finally living people inside again. In the country, you learn that there's no point in running away from the storm. You have to face it or be dragged away. I woke up before the rooster crowed, as always. But this time, it wasn't the habit that woke me up. It was the strange sounds coming from the kitchen, light steps, faucet opening and closing slowly, as if trying not to make noise. Marina. I got up and went there to find her making coffee. She had tied her hair in a ponytail and was wearing the same clothes as the day before, but she seemed different, lighter, like a plant that has spent the whole night drinking water after a long time in the drought. "Morning," I said softly so as not to scare her. "Good morning, Joe. I hope you don't mind. I found the coffee. I tried to make it the way my mother taught me." The smell coming from the kettle was perfect. Strong coffee, without hurry, the kind that awakens the soul along with the body. "It's been a long time since I woke up with the smell of coffee made by someone else," I confessed, sitting at the table. She poured 2 cups and sat in front of me. She had slept well, from what I could see. The dark circles under her eyes had diminished, and she no longer seemed so tense. I slept like a rock. It had been weeks since I'd been able to relax like that. "The first night away from home is always the best," I said, remembering when I left my parents' house to marry Claire. "It's when you realize you can breathe again." Marina smiled, and it was the first time I saw a true smile from her. It changed her whole face, made her look like the age she really was. "Joe, I need to tell you something. Last night when you left the room, I heard a car passing slowly on the road. Twice." I stopped with the cup halfway to my mouth. "What time?" "First time was about 11:30. The second, almost 2 in the morning. Low engine, like someone who doesn't want to be noticed." My stomach tightened. 2 passes in the early morning meant reconnaissance. Someone studying the property, seeing the accesses, calculating. "Did you see anything?" "No, I just heard it." But I'm sure it was the same car both times. Engine with a strange noise, kind of crackling. Julian's Corsa, old engine, poorly maintained. He had come back and he wasn't alone this time. Nobody does reconnaissance twice in the same night if they're not planning something. Marina, you need to get out of here today. I know, I was already thinking about it. But where to? I have a cousin in Norman, Claire's brother. Good man, head on straight. He can help you get further, maybe even to Colorado. Joe, I can't involve more people in this. My family isn't afraid of a fight. And Norman is far enough that they won't imagine you went there. But before Marina could answer, we heard the sound of an engine on the main road. This time it wasn't trying to be discreet. There were at least 2 cars coming in our direction. Marina turned white. They're back. Go to the room. Get your things. Quick. She shot to the back of the house while I went to the living room window. 2 cars indeed. Julian's white Corsa and a black pickup that I didn't recognize. They stopped at the entrance to the gate, but didn't enter yet. I saw 4 men getting out of the cars. Julian and 3 others that I didn't recognize. One of them had the build of someone who carried a gun. Another one was talking on the phone. My heart raced. It was no longer just a matter of a husband trying to convince his wife to come back. It was an organized search, with enough people to cause trouble. Marina came running back with her backpack on her back. Back exit, I said. Cross the yard, jump the fence, and follow the woods until you reach the old county road. It'll lead to a crossroads. Take a left and walk until you see a yellow house with a big porch. It's Marlene's house. Tell her you're a friend of mine and that you need help. And you? I'll buy time. Joe, they could hurt you. Marina, go, now. She hesitated for a second, then gave me a quick, strong hug. Thank you for everything. You can thank me later. Go. She went out the back door and ran across the yard. I saw when she jumped the fence and disappeared into the woods. At least she was safe for now. The men had opened the gate and were walking towards the house. Julian in front, the other 3 behind. The one who was talking on the phone put the phone in his pocket. I went out to the porch before they got to the door. Better to face them outside the house, in my territory. Morning, I said, coming down the steps slowly. Morning, Mr. Dawes. Julian tried the same false smile as the day before. I came to get my wife. There's no wife here. Yes, there is. She spent the night here. Her car is there behind the house. I looked in the direction he was pointing. There really was a small car, blue, kind of hidden behind the hen house. I hadn't seen it before. In the dark. That car isn't hers, I said. It's Marlene's, who came yesterday afternoon to get eggs and had a mechanical problem. Left it here and went back on foot. It was a lie, but a necessary lie, and anyone who knew Marlene knew that she really had an old blue car. One of the men who had come with Julian took a step forward. Tall, thick arms, the face of someone who solved problems with their arms. No problem, Mr. Dawes. We just want to take a look around the house. If she's not here, there won't be any problem. You're not coming into my house. Look, Julian tried to sound reasonable. I understand you want to help, but Marina is sick, needs treatment. Her family is desperate. If she's sick, where's the doctor's note? Where's the report? Where's the family's authorization allowing you to look for her? The tall man took another step forward. Enough talk. We're going in. No, you're not. That's when I saw that he had a gun on his hip. Discreet, but it was there. And from the others' movements, he wasn't alone. My mouth went dry. I had faced a lot in my life. Drought, blight in the crops, wild animals, difficult people. But I had never faced a gun. Never been in a situation where I could really die. Mr. Dawes, Julian changed his tone, got more serious. You seem like an intelligent man. No need to get involved in a mess that isn't yours. Marina is my wife legally. I have the right to look for her. And she has the right not to want to go. She's not in her right mind. She needs help. The one who's not in his right mind is the one who comes with 4 armed men to look for a girl who hasn't done anything wrong. The silence that followed was tense, as a violin string tuned too tight. I could feel the violence in the air, waiting for an excuse to explode. That's when I heard the sound of Marlene's pickup coming down the road. Diesel engine, unmistakable. And it wasn't coming alone. I heard at least one more car with it. The men looked in the direction of the noise, and I saw unease on their faces. They weren't expecting more people. The pickup stopped at the gate, and Marlene got out along with 2 of her sons, big men who have been working hard since childhood. And right behind came Mr. Anthony's car, the neighbor next door, who brought 2 more sons. 5 men from the area, people who had known me since childhood, who knew my father, who knew that I wasn't making up trouble for no reason. "Morning, Joe," Marlene shouted from afar. "Came to get my car. Everything okay here?" "Everything's fine, Marlene. Just some gentlemen who are on their way out." Julian looked at the men he had brought, then at the neighbors who had arrived. He did the math. 4 against 5, in territory they didn't know, with people who were at home. "This isn't over," he said softly, just for me to hear. "For me, it already is," I replied. "And if you show up here again, you'll be greeted with bullets." It was a bluff. I didn't have a gun in the house. Never needed one. But I spoke with so much conviction that he believed it. The 4 went back to the cars without another word. They got in and left slowly, but they left. Julian looked at me through the window of the Corsa as he passed. It wasn't anger that I saw in his eyes. It was a promise. Marlene came to the porch after they were gone. "What was that mess, Joe?" "Family problem. It's over." "You sure?" "Those men looked like dangerous folks." "I'm sure, Marlene. Thanks for coming." She looked at me suspiciously. She knew me too well to believe that was all there was to it, but didn't insist. "Anything you shout, we'll hear." "You bet." After everyone was gone, I walked to the woods where Marina had disappeared. I didn't need to look far. She appeared from behind a thick tree, still with her backpack on her back. "They're gone?" "They are. But they'll be back." "How do you know?" "From the way Julian looked at me when he left. He hasn't given up. Just rearranging his strategy." Marina looked in the direction of the road, then at me. "Joe, I need to leave today. I can't stay here anymore. They'll be back at night or in the early morning when there's no one around." She was right. And I knew that next time there wouldn't be a neighbor to help me. There would be no way to bluff with a gun I didn't have. "We're going to Norman. Now." "How?" "By pickup. We'll leave through the back, take the old county road to the highway. 2-hour drive." "What if they're watching the roads?" "Then we'll find out." But before we could make any plans, we heard a noise that made my blood run cold. Thunder. And it wasn't just one. It was the sound of a strong storm forming, the kind that arrives quickly and lasts for hours. I looked at the sky. It was clear when I woke up, but now dark clouds were gathering on the western horizon. High, fat clouds, loaded with rain and wind. "We're not going to be able to leave today," I said. "Why?" "Storm coming, and when it rains here, the old county road turns into a swamp. Not even a jeep can get through." Marina looked at the clouds, then at me. In her eyes, I saw the same fear that I felt in my chest. We were trapped, with a storm coming and armed men who knew where to find us. The situation had just gotten a lot worse. There are times when nature and life conspire against us. That's when we discover what we're made of. The first drop fell on my forehead when we were putting the pickup in the barn. Big, warm, heavy. In 5 minutes, it turned into a downpour. In 10, it turned into a storm. The wind howled between the cracks in the old barn timbers, making a noise that chilled the blood. Outside, I could hear branches breaking, shingles flying, the dull sound of the rain hitting the dry earth like closed fists. "I've never seen a storm like this," Marina shouted over the noise, huddled in a corner of the barn. "Here in Oklahoma, it's like that," I shouted back. "When it comes with everything." But inside, I was worried. It wasn't a common storm. The wind was too strong, too violent, and it lasted too long. It had been 2 hours since it had started and showed no signs of easing. A lightning bolt illuminated the entire barn, followed by a thunder that made the ground shake. Marina jumped and leaned against the wall, her face white with fear. "Joe, the house can handle it. My dad built it to last." But when I looked in the direction of the house through a crack, I saw that several shingles had already flown away. The rain was coming in for sure, and if it continued like that, there would be more serious problems than a wet roof. "We need to go to the house," I said. "Here in the barn, it's not safe if the wind gets worse." "How? It's hell out there." "Running. It's only 100 yards." We waited for a lightning bolt to pass, counted to 10, and ran. The rain fell as if someone had turned a giant bucket in the sky. In 10 seconds, we were soaked to the bone. In 20, we reached the porch of the house. Inside, it was a disaster. Water coming in through the roof in 3 different places, soaking everything. I grabbed buckets, pans, anything I could use to catch the drips. "We have to go up on the roof," I said. "In this weather? Have you gone crazy? If we don't cover these holes, too much water will come in. The house could collapse." Marina looked at me as if I had said we were going to fly to the moon. But then she looked at the water falling on the living room, soaking furniture that Claire had chosen with so much love, and understood. "What can I do? Stay here. If I fall, call for help." "Joe, no, it's too dangerous." But I was already leaving. I grabbed tarps, hammer, nails, and climbed the ladder that gave access to the roof through the back of the house. The wind almost knocked me down 3 times before I could get up there. On the roof, it was another world. The wind cut like a razor, the rain hit like hailstones, and I could barely balance on the wet shingles. But I could see the holes. 3 broken shingles, leaving a clear path for the storm. I started to stretch the tarp over the first hole, fighting against the wind that was trying to rip everything from my hands. That's when I heard Marina shouting from below. "Joe, Joe, there are people coming!" I looked in the direction of the road and felt my heart stop. 2 headlights cutting through the rain curtain, coming slowly in our direction. Even with the storm, they had come back. I climbed down from the roof faster than I had climbed up, slipping on the wet shingles, almost falling twice. I got down there dripping wet and breathless. How many cars? Only 1. But there are at least 3 people inside. Where? They stopped at the gate. They can't get in because of the mud. I went to the front window and looked through the rain curtain. There really was a car stopped at the entrance to the property. The engine was running, the headlights on, but they couldn't get past the gate. The dirt road had turned into a mud pit. "They're going to wait for the rain to stop," I said. "And then? Then they're going to come in. And this time there won't be a neighbor to help." Marina started walking from one side to the other in the living room, nervous as a cornered animal. The water continued to drip from the holes in the roof, and the noise was making everything more tense. "Joe, where do you keep the guns?" "I don't have guns." She stopped walking and looked at me. "What do you mean you don't have guns? You live alone in the middle of nowhere." "Never needed them. I've always been able to solve everything with conversation." "And if you can't solve it with conversation this time?" I had no answer. For 3 years, I had lived in peace on that piece of land. The only danger I knew were the droughts, the blights in the crops, some injured animal. I had never imagined that one day I would have armed men trying to invade my house in the middle of a storm. "Is there anything we can use? Machete, axe, anything?" "There's an axe in the barn." "But what for?" "So we don't die without a fight." The coldness in her voice scared me. Marina had been forced to marry at 16, had lived 7 years of imprisonment, had run away with a backpack and $2,000. But she wasn't going to give up without a fight. "Marina, maybe it's better if you turn yourself in. Go back with them, buy time, plan another escape later on." "Joe, you don't understand. If I go back now after what I've done, there won't be a next time. They'll lock me in the house and I'll never be able to leave. But if you stay here, you could die. We could both die." She came to me and held my arms. "Joe, have you ever had anything in your life that was worth more than your own life?" I thought of Claire, of the plans we made, of the family we were going to form, of the farm we were going to build together, of the life we were going to have. I have. Then you understand. My freedom is worth more than my life, and I'm not going to let them kill you because of me. It was at that moment that we heard the noise. It wasn't rain, it wasn't wind, it wasn't thunder. It was an engine approaching, slowly, fighting against the mud, but approaching. "They got in," Marina whispered. I turned off the lights in the house and we went to the window. The car was stuck about 50 yards from the house, but 3 men had gotten out and were walking in the mud, flashlights in their hands, protecting themselves from the rain as they could. One of them was Julian. The other 2 I didn't know, but from the way they moved, they weren't city men. They knew the country, knew how to manage in the rain and mud. "They're going to surround the house," I said. "One in the front, one on each side." "How do you know?" "It's what I would do." We had maybe 5 minutes before they got to the porch, 5 minutes to decide what to do. "Joe, is there any place to hide in here?" "There's the cellar, entrance through the kitchen, behind the fridge." "And it leads to where?" "Nowhere. It's just a hole in the ground where my dad used to store tools." "But they don't know the house, right?" "No." "Then you go down to the cellar. I'll stay here." "Marina, no." "Joe, listen. They want me, not you. If they find me alone, they'll take me and that's it. You stay hidden until they leave. And then you go to the police, tell everything, ask for help. The police won't believe me." "Yes, they will, because you're a witness." I was crazy. The plan was complete madness, but looking in her eyes, I saw that there was no other option. If we stayed together, we would die together. If she turned herself in alone, at least I would survive to tell the story. "No," I said. "There's another way." "What?" "We leave through the back. In the half-darkness, with the rain, they won't be able to see us. We run to the woods, hide until dawn. And if they see us, we run more. Joe, you're 50 years old. You won't be able to run more than 30-year-old men." "I can try." Marina smiled for the first time since the cars had appeared. "You're stubborn as a mule, you know that." Claire always said that. Your Claire was an intelligent woman. The sound of footsteps on the porch interrupted our conversation. They had arrived. "Mr. Dawes!" Julian shouted from outside. "We know she's there. We're going in anyway. It's better to open the door." I didn't answer. Marina and I looked at each other in the darkness of the living room. "Mr. Dawes, you have 1 minute to open this door. After that, we're going to break it down." 60 seconds. That's what we had. "Marina," I whispered, "when I count to 3, you run to the kitchen. I'm going to distract them." "Joe, 3. She ran. I went to the front door. "Julian," I shouted, "if you come into my house, I'll shoot." "You don't have a gun, Mr. Dawes. We already checked." "And checked how?" "We have our methods." My blood ran cold. They really knew I wasn't armed. "How?" That's when I heard the glass breaking in the kitchen. Someone had entered through the back window while Julian distracted me in the front. "Marina!" I shouted, a scream from her, of fright, not of pain. "Joe!" she shouted back, "they're in!" I ran to the kitchen and found a tall man holding Marina by the arm. She was fighting, trying to break free, but he was much stronger. "Let her go," I said. "Don't get involved, old man. Take her away and it's over." That's when I saw the knife in his free hand. Not big, but enough. "Let her go," I repeated. "Or what?" I had no answer. I had no gun, no way to threaten, no way to fight. I only had my own life to offer. "Or you'll have to kill me first." The man laughed. "If necessary." That's when Marina did something that no one expected. Instead of trying to break free, she pushed the man towards the refrigerator with all the strength she had. He lost his balance, let go of her arm to support himself, and the knife flew away. "Joe, the cellar, now!" I didn't think. I took Marina by the hand and we ran behind the refrigerator. The entrance to the cellar was there, hidden by a loose board that my dad had made 40 years ago. We went down the wooden ladder quickly. It was a small, humid hole that smelled of earth and mold, but it was dark, and they didn't know it existed. Upstairs, we heard the footsteps of the men searching the house. Julian had entered too, and the three were ransacking all the rooms. "They can't have disappeared," Julian's voice reached the cellar muffled. "They left through the back," said another. "In the rain, in this darkness. Only if they want to kill themselves, then we'll look for the bodies tomorrow." Laughter, then silence. Marina and I stayed hugged in the humid cellar, listening to the footsteps moving away. After a long time, we heard the engine of the car trying to start. Trying. "Stuck," I whispered. "You mean they can't get out?" "Not today. With this rain, they'll be stuck until the mud dries." "And where are they going to stay?" "Probably in the house, waiting for dawn." Marina rested her head on my shoulder. "So, we're going to spend the night here." "We are." "Joe?" Thank you for not turning me in. Thank you for saving me up there." We saved each other. And there, in that dark and humid hole, with Julian's men sleeping in my house and the storm raging outside, I understood that Marina was right. We had saved each other, together. Sometimes you lose everything in one night and gain a whole life the next day. I woke up with the silence. After a whole night listening to rain, wind, and thunder, the silence was deafening. Marina was sleeping with her head resting on my shoulder, breathing slowly, finally at peace after so much fear. I got up slowly so as not to wake her and climbed a few steps of the ladder. I paid attention. No noise in the house, no movement. Either they had left or they were still sleeping. I went back to her and waited. Claire always said that patience was the most important virtue of a farmer. The land teaches us to wait, Joe. There's no point in rushing what needs time. Those were 2 long hours. 2 hours imagining if the men were still up there, if they were going to discover the cellar, if we were going to get out of that hole alive. But they were also 2 hours thinking about other things, about how Marina had risked her life to save me, about how good it had been to have someone to protect again, to have a reason to fight, about how the loneliness of the last 3 years had given way to something I couldn't name, but that warmed my chest like hot coffee on a cold morning. It wasn't love, not yet. It was more than gratitude, but less than passion. It was partnership. It was recognition. It was finding someone who understood that sometimes fighting is worth more than giving up, even when the chances are small. When the sun rose and the first rays of light entered through the cracks in the cellar, Marina woke up. "They're gone," she whispered. "I don't know yet. I'm going to go up and see. Be careful." I climbed the little ladder slowly, pushed the board that covered the entrance, and poked my head out. The kitchen was empty, but one of the chairs was out of place, and there were muddy footprints on the floor. I left the cellar completely and walked through the house. Empty living room, empty bedroom, empty porch. On the kitchen table, a note. "We'll be back when the road dries. She can run, but she can't hide forever. Julian." "They're gone," I said when Marina came up from the cellar. "Are you sure?" "I am. But they left a message." I showed her the note. Marina read it in silence, then crumpled the paper and threw it in the trash. "They won't find me," she said, and there was a determination in her voice that I hadn't heard before. "Where are you going?" "I don't know yet, but far, very far." We went out to the porch and saw the damage from the storm. Fallen trees, shingles scattered around the yard, the back fence knocked down by the wind. But nature was already recovering. The sun was shining brightly, the birds were singing, and the smell of wet earth perfumed the air. "Joe," Marina said after a while, looking around, "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't need to thank me for anything." "Yes, I do. You risked your life for a stranger. You're not a stranger anymore." She looked at me affectionately, and I saw tears in her eyes. "You gave me the most important thing in the world." "What?" "Time. An extra night of freedom. A night where I could choose to stay or leave, to fight or give up. It may seem like little, but for someone who has never had a choice, a night of freedom is a huge gift. I understood what she meant. Sometimes it's not the time that matters, it's the quality of the time. A chosen night is worth more than years without choice. And you gave me something that I thought I had lost, I said. What? A reason to wake up early. We were silent for a while, looking at the damage from the storm and at the same time seeing the possibilities that opened up with the new day. Joe, I need to tell you something. Last night, in the cellar, I made a decision. What? I'm not going to run anymore. I felt a chill in my stomach. Marina, you can't go back to him. I'm not going back, but I'm not going to run anymore either. I'm going to fight. How? I'm going to find a lawyer. I'm going to report the forced marriage, the threat, everything. I'm going to gather evidence, find other women who have gone through the same thing with men from his family. I'm going to fight in court. And if it doesn't work, then I run. But before that, I'm going to try the right way. Marina Santos had become Marina Hope for real. Not because she changed her name, but because she changed her attitude. She was no longer the girl who ran away in the early morning with a backpack on her back. She was the woman who was going to face the system that tried to destroy her. You're going to need help, I said. I know, but I can't ask you for anything else. You've done too much. Marina, you saved my life last night, saved me from dying of boredom, of loneliness, of living without purpose. If you let me help, you're doing me a favor. She smiled, and for the first time since we met, the smile reached her eyes. Are you sure? Absolutely. Then I accept the help. We spent the day fixing the damage from the storm. We gathered the shingles that flew away, cleaned the mud that came into the house, repaired the back fence. Working together, I saw that Marina had skilled hands, a knack for fixing things, patience to do it right. You have a knack for the farm, I said when we finished repairing the fence. I always liked working with my hands. At Julian's house, they wouldn't let me. They said it wasn't work for a wife. Here you can work with whatever you want. Joe, are you offering me a job? I stopped with the hammer in the air. I hadn't thought much about what I was saying, but when I heard it out loud, it made sense. I'm offering partnership. The farm is too big for one person. You have a knack for the country. I need help. And while you fight in court, you need a place to stay. But I don't know anything about agriculture. I'll teach you, and you teach me other things. What other things? How to live again. How to have hope. How to believe that it's worth fighting. Marina let go of the fence she was repairing and looked at me seriously. Joe, are you sure of what you're saying? If I stay here, Julian might come back. He might bring more people. It could cause trouble for you. Marina, I spent 3 years living like a ghost. Waking up, working, sleeping without feeling anything. Last night in the cellar, afraid of dying, I felt more alive than in the last 3 years. And if it goes wrong? What if it goes right? She thought for a long time, looking at the farm, at the house, at the fields that stretched to the horizon. All right, she said finally, but with one condition. What? You let me pay rent, with the money I saved during all these years. I don't accept charity. I accept, but with a condition of my own too. What? You teach me to make that coffee you made yesterday morning. I've never had such good coffee in my life. Marina laughed, a pleasant laugh that echoed through the field and made the chickens in the yard raise their heads. I will. It was my mother's recipe. 6 months later, Marina had won the first battle in court. The marriage was annulled for coercion, and Julian had to pay compensation for all the years she lived in captivity. It wasn't much money, but it was recognition. It was justice. She opened a small school on the farm for the children of the area who had difficulty getting to the city. 3 mornings a week, our porch turned into a classroom, and the sound of children learning to read filled the field with joy. I learned to plant flowers. Marina taught me that good land isn't just for food, it's also for beauty. We made a garden next to the house with roses, sunflowers, and a row of hope plants that she insisted on planting. "Why hope plants?" I asked the day we planted them. "Because it was the first thing I found when I got here," she replied, covering the seeds with red earth. "And because it's a plant that grows anywhere, resists any weather, and always blooms." We didn't get married. There was no need. We became family in another way, in the way we chose. She in the guest room that became her room, me in my room that had a reason to exist again, dividing the table, the work, the worries, and the joys of those who build something together. Julian never appeared again. We learned from third parties that he moved to Oklahoma City after he lost in court. Better that way. Some people only learn when they lose what they thought was theirs by right. On Marina's first birthday on the farm, she gave me a gift. A handwritten wooden sign, Hope Valley Ranch. "Why Hope Valley?" I asked. "Because the old Hope was just mine. This one is ours." We hung the sign on the front gate, and it's still there today. Everyone who arrives already knows what it's about here. It's a place for people who believe in starting over, in second chances, in encounters that change destinies. Claire was right when she said that people appear in our lives at the right time. Marina appeared when I had given up on living for real. I appeared when she had given up on fighting, and together we discovered that sometimes the family we choose is stronger than the family we are born with. That sometimes the home we build is more solid than the home we inherit. That sometimes casual encounters are the ones that transform us the most. Today, when I pass by the road where I found Marina for the first time, I always stop and stay in silence for a few minutes, thinking about what my life would be like if I hadn't stopped the horse that night, if I hadn't gone down to help, if I had pretended I didn't see that it wasn't my problem. It would be an empty life, a half-lived life. Instead, I have a full life, full of children's laughter learning to read on the porch, full of the smell of coffee made with care, full of good conversation at the end of the day, full of hope planted in the red soil of Oklahoma, blooming in all seasons. Marina didn't become Marina Hope because she changed her name. She became Marina Hope because she discovered that hope is not something we lose or find. It's something we plant every day, with small gestures of courage and humanity. And that blooms whenever someone extends a hand to those in need without asking for anything in return, just for the simple pleasure of seeing another human being believe in life again. Because in the end, we are all a little lost on the road, waiting for someone to stop the horse and offer help. And when we offer that help, we don't just save the other. We also save a piece of our own soul that was forgotten along the way. There are encounters that we take for life, not for the time they last, but for the mark they leave. Marina arrived in my life on a stormy night and transformed my silence into music. It's not every day that we get the chance to save someone, even less that someone saves us back. But when it happens, we understand that this is what we were born for. To be a bridge between despair and hope, between loneliness and company, between what we were and what we can become. Joe Dorries.